Okay. Wow! Hi, everybody! Welcome to Mindlight Resiliency Training. Wow. Okay. Lots of awesome people. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We are so happy to have you. Now, I'm going to ask everybody to press the mute button on your Zooms. It will be in the bottom left corner. And then when there's moments where you have a question or we have a group question for you, you can hit unmute. That way the volume for everyone stays clean for the audio. So hi, my name is Melanie Weinberger, and I will be leading today's training along with Lillian Moore.
Hi, everyone.
Would love to know if you can write in the comments on the bottom of your screen. There will be a little thing that says chat. If you can hit chat, tell us in the comments where you're joining in from, and just say hi to everybody, so everyone can start to get to see where we're coming in from globally. And I'll lead by example. Allison from Brooklyn. Hey, girl. Hey. Okay, Morgan from Austin. Chris is from Long Beach, New York. Awesome. Mary Gail from Denton. Very cool. Stacy from Florida. Elisa from Belmore. More people from Austin. A lot of Austin in here. Cool. While you guys are writing that in, I thought Lily and I could take a minute to tell you a little bit about Mindlight and get you sort of geared up for what we're doing for the next hour and a half together. So Mindlight is an emotional mastery training organization that Lily and I started about 2 years ago. And our mission collectively is to create an emotionally thriving world. Also, I want to introduce you guys to Tatiana, who's on the call. Tati is on our team. She's waving right now. She is the director of Mindlight Institute. So we've got the whole Mindlight team live with you here. Our promise for you on this call today is that you're going to walk away feeling and knowing that you're more resilient, not only right now immediately, but for the long term. So we're going to be teaching you techniques that you can use for the rest of your life and develop a strong practice of emotional mastery. And in my experience of being alive, these are the most powerful tools you can have, because it gives you a say in how you feel. And that is the ultimate control of life experience. So, Lily, will you give a little introduction about who you are?
Yeah, you might hear some kiddos in the background because that's life now. Yeah, so I am Lillian, and I've been working with mental emotional wellness since I really was a child, but professionally since I was 19. So that's like 15 years now. And I've been training practitioners for the last 6 years. And like Melanie said, she and I have been training inside organizations for the last 2 years. My background is mostly in working with trauma. And I kind of weave that in with more of human optimization kind of practices as well.
Thank you, Lily. And again, I'm Melanie Weinberger. I have been studying this line of work for about maybe 7 years. Lily and I started Mindlight about 2 years ago. And prior to that, I was running a company that created wellness programs for teams and was implementing that inside offices in 3 states in the country, and did a lot of speaking on self-empowerment and personal development. So the curriculums that we're teaching you tonight are things that Lily and I have been teaching together for about 2 years. We've seen transformative in the rooms we've been in, and really look forward to giving you the goods tonight. So the agenda for the evening, we're going to start out looking at what emotional mastery is at a high level and how it works. Then we're going to dive into resiliency in particular and learn the brain science behind resiliency. And then finally, we're going to learn techniques for resiliency, and we're going to experience them together. So this is going to be an experiential learning where you're really going to feel your energy shift and begin to get a felt sense of that inner locus of control. That sound good for an agenda?
Yeah.
I get some like hell yes and like waves and hands in the air, excited to be resilient. Okay, cool. So let's start by just noticing in our bodies now, how is our stress or discomfort or anxiety levels? And I'd like for you in chat to give us a number from 0 to 10. 0 being, I am flying the joy rainbow through the clouds and life has never been peachier. And 10 being, things feel really maybe impossible right now. Maybe there's fear, maybe there's a lot of worry. And any answer here is safe. We're just trying to take a pulse of where people are so that we can work with the energy that's really here. We've got some varieties. We had a 1, we had a 10, we've got some 4s and 5s, we've got a 7, another 4, an 8 or a 9. Yeah, I hit a 10 at one point today, and then I practiced everything that we're about to teach, and I felt better. One thing I would like to say to everybody is that emotional mastery is a practice. And so it's not something you get to the finish line of and you're complete. It's something that you employ. And the more frequently you employ it, the stronger you get inside out. Okay, thank you everybody for writing in your stress levels. It looks like we're averaging around 6, which is great. That's a great place to be. Okay, so why are we talking about resiliency today? Lil, do you have anything to add there before I move into our big why, which is important?
No, I'm good. I like hearing everybody where everybody's at, and I think it's a perfect place to start. So you're good. Thank you.
Okay. Resiliency is important because sometimes unexpected things happen in our life that feel out of our control. And these things cause us stress and anxiety, and this happens all the time. In this time in particular, there are some very specific things happening, like headlines coming out every minute. Like I've caught myself sitting on CNN and just like refreshing to seeing what's happening. People around us are debating. There's a lot of worry being shared between people. Our lifestyles are experiencing an immediate shift right now, right? Like how many people are at home and planning to be at home for a while right now? See a raise of hands, right? Immediate lifestyle shift, like, whoa. So that's happening. And while all this is happening, I've noticed that it's really easy to get caught up in this emotional vortex, that it's almost addictive or fun to see panicky headlines and keep clicking on things and like kind of go into this place of doomsday. One of the beautiful things about emotional mastery is that it gives you back the driver's seat, puts you back in the driver's seat of how you want to feel. It gives you the choice to feel how you want to feel in any given moment. And instead of orienting towards wanting to change what's happening in the outside world, and then we can feel better inside, everything we teach and that we're teaching tonight is going to be looking at the dynamic of how do we change our internal world so that we're managing from in here, and then the external world lines up to be more manageable, to match with our internal feelings. So we're shifting that locus of control from how do we change the world out there to how do we change the world in here. And that's a really important concept to grasp before we move on. Let's see. So what I'm saying here is that essentially each of us have the opportunity to shift the way we're feeling. And when we're noticing that we feel uncomfortable or stressed, we have the opportunity to take responsibility for that feeling. And by taking responsibility, then we can shift it. And it all happens inside here. And I'm guessing while you're watching this, a lot of you are thinking that there's other people in your life who should be watching this and hearing this. And that's great. And we're recording this so you can share this with other people later. But what's beautiful about you being here is that by you modeling the behavior you're about to learn, you will act as a lighthouse. By you modeling this behavior, you will make such a bigger impact for both how it feels to be you, and also other people seeing your behavior will mimic it. There's a beautiful thing inside humans that can work in our favor, and that's called mirror neurons. And really, when there's chaos happening, people biologically want to follow the calm person. That's where we feel safe. When fire breaks out in a room and everyone's going crazy, we don't go running after the crazy people asking them what to do. We look for the calm person. And that's where resiliency allows us to be inside of ourselves. Any questions on that before I move on to a visual of the map of the human experience? So we're gonna start to learn now a bit of the map of emotional mastery and what does that mean? What is the content of that? And then we'll go into the focus area of resiliency. Does that sound good? Can I get a consent? Like, yeah, we're all on the ride? Okay. Okay, so we are going to look at my screen. Let me just share my screen. So to give you context for the broader view, are you guys seeing the map of the human experience right now? Is that what's up for you?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, where is it? I can't see it on my screen. I'm glad that you can see it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, map of the human experience. So, experience of life. Life is made up of how it feels to be you in every given moment. Those feelings inside yourself is your live energy, your live emotion. Okay, and this map is mapping out both how it feels to be you, and the other half of your experience is how it feels to be you in connection with other people. So there's just my whole internal world, and we're looking at that on this side of the map, okay? And in my own internal world of being me, when I wake up, am I having a day full of stress? Am I stressed? Am I worried? Am I anxious? Or am I waking up and I'm excited to create? I'm happy for my day. I'm looking forward to what's coming. What we're learning tonight is how to move from one to the other. It's how to move from down here, this place of our inner world being in survival mode, to flip it, to come into this place where we feel powerful and we feel excited and we're thriving. So it's sort of like below water, not doing so well, and above water. And that's just your personal experience. Then there's your interpersonal experience. So when I wake up and go to work, or when I wake up next to my partner, or when I go wake up my kids, or when I go call my mother-in-law or my cousin, are they having a good day or are they having a bad day? And is our connection good, or is our connection in need of support? So that's that interpersonal part of the human experience. And again, in both of these instances, we want to move from a place of just surviving the moment. Like when you're out of harmony with someone and it just feels like, oh, I have to survive this meeting, or I have to survive this phone call. There are tools and techniques to move from that place of survival to having thriving connection in relationship with others. So tonight, specifically, we're going to dive into resiliency. And while every quadrant that you're seeing here is super important, resiliency is the backbone to all of it. If you're not able to regulate your own emotional system, you will not have the capacity to help others rise above water. It's kind of like the thought of putting your own oxygen mask on first. We want to be able to calm ourselves down when we're upset and pivot to a place where we're creative and thriving again. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Did that land for everybody, the map of the human experience?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I think Lily had some technical difficulties and dropped off. Let me just check in with her.
You have to let her back in.
Oh, I have to let her back in. Oh, there's 9 people waiting. Oh my gosh, 8 people waiting. Hi, everybody. I didn't realize there were more people waiting out there. Welcome to
Hi.
Elise is watching too.
Oh,
Hello.
hi. Okay, for everyone just joining, if you can write in the comments where you're joining in from,
Okay.
and then give us on a 1 to 10 how you're feeling right now. 1 being I'm over the moon on a rainbow, and 10 being I'm pretty stressed and anxious.
She had this
Not
big
sure where you're
chart
right.
out. Don't cough on me, whatever you
So
Right.
I'm gonna mute some of you so that we're not hearing all of the background. So Lil, while you were
Oh,
rebooting, we covered the map of the human experience and talked about how resiliency is really the backbone of being able to thrive personally and being able to thrive interpersonally. Because without being able to regulate your own system, you won't really have the capacity to help anybody else. And so today is all about putting your own oxygen mask on first.
Cool. Are we ready to talk about what regulating our systems, what we mean by that?
We are ready.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so when we're talking about regulating our system, what we're talking about is regulating our nervous system. So we're just gonna like go through the nuts and bolts of this because one, in order to create resiliency inside yourself, you need to have awareness of what's happening inside of you. That's really the first step. If you don't understand what is going on or why your feelings are doing what your feelings are doing, it's really difficult to get into the driver's seat. So we're going to spend a little bit of time creating that context. Thank you, Lori. Nice. I'm happy you're here, Lori, by the way. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the systems of our nervous system, how that operates so that you have that awareness. And then we'll talk about and actually experience ways of regulating it. Okay, so when we talk about the nervous system, we're really talking about 2 modes of operating, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So sympathetic is our stress response. This is when your system says, oh God, there's danger, and your cortisol level rises, your adrenaline rises, your blood sugar rises, blood pressure rises, and you get ready to fight, you get ready to run, you get ready to hide. And it is really helpful if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, but it is really unhelpful when you're needing to make wise decisions for your family. It's really unhelpful when you're trying to digest your food. It's not helpful when you're trying to be compassionate towards other people. This part of our body, this part of our operations is really just good at 2 things. It's good at moving towards pleasure or towards comfort, towards safety, moving away from danger. But the way that part of our system analyzes what is dangerous and what is safe is really not logical. It's not reliable information. For example, I'm sure you guys have all had the experience with a significant other or a family member where they say something and you feel ready to fight, like you're gonna fight them off, even though they just said words. But those words landed as a danger in your system. They made your face flush. They made your heart race. They did these things, the words did this thing in your body that's an appropriate response if you're actually under physical attack. But in a moment like that, where it would actually be helpful to have higher perspective, maybe to understand where the other person's coming from, our system isn't really able to do that. So this sympathetic nervous response, it really is great if we have an immediate danger that we need to run from or fight off. Otherwise, it's great for getting our attention, and that's the limit of its power or its gift. The parasympathetic nervous response is when we're in balance.
Can I add something, Lil?
Yes, please. Yes,
I just want to give, that was brilliant. I just want to give that a minute to land. So what she's saying is that when you get that anxiety or like that pulse in your system about danger, it's useful for just that moment when it gives you that alert. It's not useful to stay in that state. It's useful to listen to it and then what Lily's about to say.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when we're balanced, when our nervous system is calm, we're in parasympathetic nervous response, meaning we are digesting our food, we are generating new cells, we are fighting off infection. We are thinking clearly. We have our full cognitive capacity. We have a capacity to think critically, think creatively, can be compassionate, have higher perspective, which means that we can place this moment in accurate proportion to the rest of our life. When we're on sympathetic nervous response, all that goes out the window. And the job of the sympathetic nervous system is to say, this is the only thing that matters until we find safety. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters until I find safety. So our vision goes into tunnel vision. And that's like where Mel was talking about our headlines, where all we can see is the bad news. All we can see is the danger. And when we watch ourselves go into that place, if you notice, if you can be aware that it's happening, then you have choice, you have sovereignty. You can choose what you're doing with your attention, what you're doing with your thoughts, what you're doing with your body. That is either cycling in that sympathetic nervous response or pulling back out of it and returning to a regulated state. So that's what we're talking about when we say regulating our system means going back into parasympathetic nervous response. Mel, did you have anything you wanted to add about kind of the more biological nature of resiliency?
Sure, I can go into the brain waves and the breath, and yeah, okay. All right, everyone. Hi, back to Mel here. I think I have you pinned low. Let me see if I can cancel spotlight on you and then spotlight here. Did that work? What I just did?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So when we are in that sympathetic stress response, it has immediate biological effects on our body that are really important to know about. Because when left unchecked, we're actually staying in a chronic state of dis-ease, and it can have repercussions if it's not interrupted. So when we are super stressed out, we tend to breathe shallow, and it sounds like this. And we may do an example later where you'll notice it, but next time you have an uncomfortable thought, just take a second to check on your breath and you'll notice that it actually got shallow. The body's reactions to the thoughts are immediate. Whatever the mind is thinking, the body thinks is real, and it's going right along with the thoughts in the mind. So the breath gets shallow, and then your heart rate starts to follow your breath. So your breath is speeding up, your heart rate will start to speed up, and then the third one comes online, which is your brain waves start to follow. So now everything is going a little more chaotic than usual. And the brain waves, when we're happy and peacefully being creative, our brainwave state is called alpha brainwaves. Those are really nice, calm, smooth, life is good place to be. When we're in an anxiety state, we flip into beta brainwaves, and some people call this beta brain or monkey brain. Has anyone ever experienced worrying about something, and when you're worrying about it, you just keep looping on it all day? Like no matter how many different ways you solve it, you're just looping. That's beta brain, just running you in circles, running that reaction loop. And it's interesting to notice here that no matter how many times our brain tries to solve for the emotion we're feeling, it's not working. The solutions of different kinds of mathematics or different kinds of reason aren't calming down the body. And we're going to talk later about why integrating these two things are really important. There's a reason why strategy up here doesn't calm down here all the time. So think about those things happening on a long-term basis. Think about your heart rate being a little whacked out. Think about your brain waves constantly looping and your breath being shallow. That can lead to, in the long run, chronic illnesses. So it's really good for us to learn how to interrupt these patterns. And once you learn what you're about to learn tonight, you will not be able to unlearn it. You will not be able to forget it. You'll have it with you forever and be able to utilize it in the moment when you need it most.
Before you actually lead into teaching an exercise to interrupt, I just want to say one more thing about that brain-body connection. there's sort of a hierarchy. You know, we talk about this fabulous newer part of our brain that comes online when we're relaxed, when we are in a parasympathetic state. So this newer part of our brain, ideally, we want it in charge. We want it to be governing and speaking to our body and our mammal brain words of comfort or soothing it. It's like if you've got a nervous dog, you want to be the alpha and you want to be calming. And what happens, because we don't have training in how to do this, it's more like the nervous dog is dominant in our system. And then our newer part of our brain ends up chasing that part of the older part of our brain. So we have an emotion that's coming from a very old and not very reliable source. And then we try and build stories and look for evidence and build infrastructure and back up what it is that we're feeling. And then when we're trying to solve, we're solving from inside of the sympathetic nervous response. So we're trying to solve, and our little computer brain is going, but it's going with like half capacity or less than half capacity. But when we're able to change that hierarchy, which even having the self-awareness begins that process, just having the self-awareness, that's practicing perspective. That's switching your brain into a different state. That changes the hierarchy so where you're not following that fear around anymore. Instead, you're starting to govern your thoughts. You're starting to govern your reactions.
Thank you, Lily. Okay, so we're gonna start learning some technique. Raise your hand if you're ready to start learning some technique. Awesome. And also, guys, I'm gonna drop a link into the chat. Mindlight is going to be offering a lot of free trainings because it's good for the community and we care about you. And if you wanna be alerted of these free trainings, you can sign up to get alerted via email. I just dropped a link in chat, and if you click it, it'll ask you for your first name and your email. Up to you if you want to be in the know for next things. Okay, so Lily said something really, really wise, which is that the first step to interrupting the stress response is simply awareness. I had the opportunity to sit with someone the other day, and she started asking me, she was doing research on how my mind works for emotional mastery, and something I said to her was that as soon as I get in stress response, which happens all the time, right? Like things happen all the time that you're like, whoa. Immediately what I do inside myself is it's like I almost break into two Melanies. There's the Melanie that's like freaking out in the moment. And then there's the Melanie that sees her freaking out and is like, oh, hey, I see that. We can be okay. And by creating that separation and stepping into this one, that's the beginning. That's the beginning of accessing your higher perspective and shifting out of your stress response. And as soon as you have that awareness, as soon as you've created that, oh, I'm having a stress response and there's still a me that's aware that I'm having it, I'm going to make a new choice. And a really easy way to break the pattern is by something we call a slow minute, which interrupts the body's reaction to the mind's thoughts long enough that you can shift the direction of your energy. I think I saw, Lily, in a document you made the other day that if we focus the mind on a feeling or a set of thoughts for 17 seconds in a row, we have completely shifted the energy and the momentum in that direction, which I think is beautiful. So remember earlier I talked about when we're in that stress response, our breathing is the first thing to go and it starts to get really shallow. We're going to override the body and start to breathe really, really deeply. And we're gonna do something called diaphragmatic breathing. And what diaphragmatic breathing is basically, guys, it's just like really deep belly breaths. And you wanna breathe like a Buddha and breathe in for a count of 5 and out for a count of 5. Go ahead and do it one more time while I'm speaking. And when you're on that in breath, you're blowing up that you're pushing out your diaphragm really and breathing into the bottom of your belly. So you're really expanding and using your full lung capacity. And this it interrupts that whole stress response. Sydney is asking if it matters if we inhale in the nose or mouth. I personally, I don't know which one I do. There might be some slight differences in which one you do. Like I know that there's nuances in breath work, but for purposes of the interrupting your stress response, really what matters most is how long you're holding that inhale and exhale for, that they're really big and slow. And you're going to hold that breath pattern for in the nose. Lily's pointing to her nostrils. Here. We're gonna hold that breathing pattern for a whole minute. And by doing this slow minute, you interrupt the response. You get the ability to remove yourself from that emotional hijacking long enough where you get access to even more choice. And it's not choice, again, it's not choice in how you wish the world was or choice in how you want to change things out here. It's choice in how you feel. It's all about that internal mode of control. So we're going to do, Lily, what do you think about a slow minute together on this call? Okay, we're going to do slow minute together. So I'm going to set a timer for a minute, and I would like everyone to please close your eyes. And this is how you're going to use this, okay, in real life, when it's getting real and it's going down. You're going to walk into a room where you can be by yourself. You're going to close your eyes. You're going to set a phone timer for a minute, and you're just going to breathe really slowly, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. I'm starting the timer now. For anyone who's just joining, we are practicing slow breathing for a minute. Good job. Time. You can open your eyes. So why this is so important is because why this is so effective is because when something happens that causes a reaction in our body, remember that all those biological cues happen so fast. And I want you to think about it like it's a race car racing around a track. Like, you know how to worry. You know how to be anxious. Like, we know how to stay in that space. And that car is going really, really fast. And it has driven those roads so many times that if we're thinking it changed the way we feel, if we don't take a minute to slow down, it's the equivalent of putting a brick wall up at the end of that racetrack and being like, stop, to the car. And it's just not going to happen. The car's going to try and like slam on its brakes and like hit that wall. So we're treating our regulatory system, our emotional internal system, like that speeding car, and putting the brakes, giving some gentle brakes to that really fast reaction, so that we can then take the steering wheel and perhaps turn the car around on the track. Okay, so we've just covered the first technique in how to calm your stress response and how to create choice in how you feel, is to become aware of it and choose to slow down by taking a slow minute. Lil, would you like to talk about how we then shift into new feelings?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mel. Mm-hmm. Man, I love that. It's so simple and yet so effective. Yeah, so Mel, you pointed to something really beautiful around creating this gap between the part of ourselves that's on the treadmill of worry, and the part of ourselves that has the awareness that we're in that state. So we're going to expand into that a little bit more. That part of us that is able to look and see the part of us that is spinning, that part of us has the power to change the direction of our thoughts and subsequently our feelings. And you can invest in this part of yourself by investing in perspective. So we're going to do an exercise that supports that investing in perspective. And we're going to start by thinking of resources, emotional resources, thinking about what it is that you believe that you can relax into. Maybe you believe in God. Maybe you believe that there is a harmony to nature. Maybe you believe that everything happens for a reason, or you believe in your own strength, or you believe that people are good, or you believe that there is something that has all of these stars and planets orbit in beautiful orchestration, and the plants flower and bloom and fruit and rot and become more soil, that there's something that you can find in your own belief system that feels stable, like a truth to you, that feels like a safe place for your mind to go. You could even, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I often go to my dog. Okay, back to you.
Yes, so uncomplicated, loving relationships could be also a beautiful place in nature, or a place that you feel like is a home to you. If you consider for a minute, and honestly, the more existential you can go without losing sweet feelings, without losing good feelings, the stronger you'll get, because we're talking about perspective here. So if you can go big in that perspective, in that comforting perspective, that's a good place to lean. That's going to give you a bigger support to hold a bigger emotion. So spend a few minutes, and you can even type in the chat box if you want. What do you believe, or what do you think about? Where can you take your mind that has you remember the big picture? For me, nature.
We've got nature, we've got love, we've got 3 refuges, purple gem. We've got faith in humanity, people are beautiful, nature and universal order. These are great, guys.
That's beautiful. Somebody asked about thinking about their child or thinking about a person. And I think, yes, unless it feels sticky or wobbly. If you think about your kid and then that triggers an insecurity or a fear or something, then back off. Get less specific. Children in general. And then like the cycle of life, and then nature, and then the limitlessness of time, or ocean. Yes, good. So backing up, making it broad, and then notice how that feels in your body. Notice if you can commit to those thoughts when your mind wanders somewhere else. Come back to it. And again, notice how it feels in your body.
Can you guys share in the comments how it feels when you go there? Like being held. That's really cool. Jody says relief. Allison says perfect. Elisa says she feels moved, like she wants to cry. That's a really powerful love. That's excellent. Grounding. Elisa, perfect. Energetic radiation. Yes, Allison. Karen feels safer. Karen's my mom. Love you, Mom.
So just stay there.
Yeah.
And congratulate yourself on how quickly you were able to feel better just by changing the direction of your thought. Feel that appreciation for yourself, feel appreciation for your system, and then go back again to that thought. Commit to it like it's the most important thing to think about right now. If you have thoughts come up that are yeah buts, like yeah but this isn't her, or there's an urgency to a different thought, that's okay. Let it happen and then recommit.
I've got a question. Lily, let's say I'm thinking of a thought, and when I think of that thought, like let's say there's someone I love, but we just got in a fight, and I'm thinking of them, but the fight has me get a little uncomfortable. Is that a good thing to use, or should I use something the only good feeling?
Pick a different thing. Back up. Go bigger. Go more broad. The ideal things are things that that are unconditional. Again, we're going to take another few deep breaths. You can bring up and you can even expand upon whatever that belief was or thought was or idea. You can drop into it more. Maybe you have more thoughts about it. You can expand it in your mind and then come back to your body and breathe there. Beautiful. We're going to spend more time here because this is the place that we rush out of, especially in a time like this where it feels like there's a lot of emergencies. We're going to take some time and value. This is valuing your life. You deserve to feel peace. And you're a better, more functional, more intelligent, more generous, more competent human if you hang out here more often. So again, bring up your sweet spot. Notice its feeling in your body. Appreciate your body for responding. Appreciate the relief. And then bring your mind back to that sweet spot. That place of safety, unconditional safety. You can take it another step deeper by moving your body, wiggling. If you notice you're holding anywhere in your body, if you're holding your shoulders, if you're holding your jaw, if you're holding your breath, and let that sink in even deeper. Let yourself relax into that thought, that awareness, that trust, even deeper. You can stretch. If you get distracted, just come back. Come back to what you know, what you believe, what you can trust in. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and you can share if you have any other shares about what that experience was like for you.
Also, if you guys have questions, you can write them in the chat and we'll go ahead and answer them. Or, yep.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Jody says that was surprisingly empowering.
Yeah.
Alyssa said it's very helpful for me to move around. Yeah, moving the body is really great to help that energy move.
Yeah, we're going to be playing around with that in our next little experience. We'll be playing around with how to move the energy when it's getting stuck. Another thing that I want to voice is we're talking about these two modes of being and their relationship to each other. Your fear is going to tell you that this kind of exercise is dumb and a waste of your time. Your fear is going to tell you you don't have time for it, that it's not going to help you, that it's not going to solve anything, which is why we started where we started. You're actually less intelligent when you're stressed. You're not as smart when you're stressed. You're meaner when you're stressed. I'm gonna put this in really negative language so you can like let that fear response get it. You're smarter and you're kinder when you're calm. There is nothing more important for you to invest in than your own internal peace. There is nothing, especially right now, you don't have anywhere to go. There's nothing more important right now than managing this internal world. What are we afraid of? Oh, well, the reason why you're afraid of doing this, the reason why you're afraid of going there, going to this sweet spot, is because you have a little machine inside of you. You've got a little mammal inside of you that's saying, keep freaking out, keep freaking out, keep freaking out. Part of your brain is insisting that you keep freaking out. That is why we have resistance to meditating, to doing yoga, to saying nice things to ourselves. Part of our brain is directly in opposition to this practice. That's okay. That's that part of our brain's job. It can do that. We just need to make sure that the power dynamic internally is in balance, which means calm, peaceful self has lots of power, and scared self can be held by that and resourced by that. Okay.
We have a question.
Yeah, would you like different sweet spots for different types of issues? So I would say, and this is honestly, even statistically, if you look at how beliefs impact health, there are crazy studies about people who have a spiritual practice or a spiritual faith and how that relates to physical health. I'm translating that because if you go existential, if you go for the existential, the big comfort, and it really doesn't matter if it's God or if it's nature or whatever it is, but if you go big, that is where your most stable, consistent comfort is going to be. That is going to be the most reliable place for you to go to get your system in rebalance. So sure, there might be happy thoughts in a lot of different areas. There might be comforting thoughts, But as soon as you get into a conditional happy thought, you become more vulnerable. And since we're talking about resiliency, we're really looking at where can we reliably go to build from. And this next piece is going to be more about the building, like how we go from that big comfort to a more acute, detailed medicine for a specific anxiety. But for this exercise, we call this exercise anchoring. By the way, that's what this technique is called. Anchoring. Best place to go is big existential comfort. The biggest, sweetest belief that you can have about life, yourself, humanity, the universe. Those thoughts are going to give you a really strong foundation to build other thoughts that are in alignment with that will be stronger than the arguments that are very arguable with.
Something just to add a practice just for that piece, I have a practice I call, like, just to strengthen that muscle, is to practice anchoring into that feeling in the morning and in the evening. First thing in the morning, you can lay in bed, do that deep diaphragmatic breathing and anchor in to that safe place. And then also before you go to sleep, it's a really nice thing to orient your thoughts to a calm, peaceful place before bed. You'll have nicer dreams, you'll have better sleep. So you don't have to only wait till a stress moment to use this. You can start flexing that feel-good muscle now.
Okay, so remember in your body right now what it feels like to feel that existential comfort. And we're gonna lean into a practice, we sometimes call this practice pivoting, where we let that big comfort meet our stress or our pain, where we let that big, safe place hold that little part of ourself that feels like we're about to die. So first, I want you to re-stabilize in that feeling of existential comfort. What you really know to be true, what you feel in your bones is true, that you can relax into, that you can lean on and be held by, that you can open into, that you can let go to, surrender to. Your refuge. And when that feels really strong, you can let the stress show up on the screen. Don't go full force, just let it be there. And see if you can hold that stress inside of this feeling of peace. And take a breath. You're going to be with that stress response the same way that you would be with a friend who's had a real crap day. Like loving, compassionate, friendly, attentive. And breathe. Beautiful. You're doing really beautiful. If you get overwhelmed by the stress, reground into your existential comfort. If the stress disappears, then you can pull up a headline. So what we're doing when we do this practice is we're changing our relationship to what scares us. So there's certain things out there, we call them triggers, that light up our stress response, where They show up in our world, we have an immediate stress reaction to it. But when we do this practice, we're teaching our system how to be safe with that content, how to be safe with that circumstance. We're retraining our response to not freak out. We're going to add a last component to this. But before I do that, I want to see if there's any questions or shares just with this internal relating.
You can unmute yourself if you have a spoken share. You want to share.
I have a share.
Hi, Lori.
Hi. Yeah, I have a little laryngitis. Not great for a speech coach. But anyway, so I found myself visualizing a lot. Like I had the weirdest visualization of my anxiety was inside of, get this, a jellyfish. So it was like it couldn't get out. I don't know where the hell that came from, but it was very helpful and strong.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Really sweet. And sweet to hear your voice, laryngitis and all.
Thank you.
Allison had a really sweet share in the comments that it was a really cool experience offering up the stress to her higher place. Do you want to say something, Allison?
I don't know if I have anything too profound to add, but I've never tried it in that way before. So targeted way of dealing with that feeling. Because when I brought it up, I actually did feel a tightness in my chest, associated with like the stressful thoughts, and it kind of just felt like offering it up into that like higher place that grounds me and comforts me. And that was just a really cool experience. Thank you guys. Definitely gonna try utilizing that in the future. So
Beautiful. Anybody struggle with it?
So I've noticed that for me, sometimes it feels like a battle, like suddenly these two, like the stress thoughts and then like the existential, I love humanity, like the world's a beautiful place, like they're at war with each other. So I don't know if you can speak to that or if it's just a matter of practicing, like really allowing that existential thought to hold space for the stress and just like practicing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that share. That's super real and yes, true to my experience as well. This is why we go existential instead of specific, because the more specific you get, the more likely you are to have a little internal battle. So for example, if you say, let's say you're stressed about what's happening in the world right now, and your nice thought is that humans are good. And then you're like, humans are good, but they're kind of being assholes. And then you're like, ugh. And so you really do want to look for your beliefs that are unconditional. So that to me is a sign to go even bigger with your belief. Like humans might be jerks, but life is good. Like life in general, microorganisms and elephants, and where you can zoom off even more. The more specific you get, the more likely you're going to have a little internal butting of heads.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Any other sticking points?
Hi. I had trouble finding the space of unconditional love. I felt like I needed a guideline because I was off in like researching the black hole. And then I was like, maybe I don't know where I was supposed to go or where I was supposed to find it. So at the end, I eventually found it like in nature, but it was specifically hearing birds sing.
Oh, I love it.
So I don't know if that was like, I guess I was looking for that right spot, and I didn't know if that was the space.
Sure, that sounds like a really sweet spot. Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice too because it is specific. Like it's something that your mind can bring in and hold and imagine that gives you that feeling inside your body. And you can build more infrastructure around this. There's, you know, the same way that we build infrastructure around our fears, we can build infrastructure around our existential comforts. You can build thought patterns that support the way you want to feel. So right now we might be talking about this one specific safe thought, and all around it are dangerous thoughts. So we're like, can't even think about humans, can't even think about the animals, can't even think. So if we go really big and we're like, limitless time in the cosmos, and then we can be like, okay, I think there's a kind of a rightness way, way out here. And maybe that's the only place that we can find that stability. Then from there, from that stable, really stable place, you can start adding to it. You can start thinking, exploring from there, where else are really good, safe feeling thoughts to ground into. And one of the ways that you can do that is why we say, oh my gosh, thank you, system, for being so responsive, because already that builds the infrastructure. The fact that we can think a nice thought and immediately our body feels differently, isn't that just wonderful to know? Isn't that in and of itself an existential comfort? Having that awareness that your mind has that level of power over your internal experience and your body, that your body that quickly will respond to your thoughts. And knowing that you can choose your thoughts, you just changed. You just turned a million different little dials inside your hormonal system, inside your nervous system, inside your digestive system. You just flipped switches on the motherboard of your whole system, things that you don't think that you have any control over. You don't have any control over your blood pressure, right? Except you do, because you just did it. You just lowered your blood pressure. You just regulated your heart. Okay. So those kinds of thoughts build infrastructure around this safe place. And then it gets easier and more natural to go there. Okay, so let's add the third component. So at Mindlight, whenever we're doing any kind of integrative work, which is work for building resiliency, we talk about three important components. The first component is what we started with. We want to be grounded or have a witnessing self or an aware self, a friendly self that is offering attention, that's offering kind attention. The second component is being aware of the compartmentalized self or the stress response or the wound, the pain body. And then the third component is making it meaningful to the body. So where we started earlier today, that this feedback loop, it's not just in our heads, there's a physical component to it. One of our favorite ways to work with the body is through the meridian system. The meridian system is a system of both communication and also vitality throughout the body. It comes from traditional Chinese medicine, and it is one of the most studied in clinical settings, most studied alternative medicine. It's only alternative here, but it's one of the most studied bodies of medicine in the world in terms of results-oriented practices. So the meridian system is a system very similar to the circulatory system or the nervous system or the endocrine system, that it moves both energy or vitality and also information throughout the body. And along these channels, there are certain points that act like electrical switches. You could think about these points like switches on a circuit board. When we have a big emotional upset, it's like we're frying our wires, and by tapping on these points, we're resetting that part of the system. This system, you can go about creating change in the system either by knowing exactly which is the right switch to switch, or what we do in these practices called EFT or tapping is we hit all of the major meridians through tapping. We hit these points, and so we reset the whole board. We don't know which which room in the house the wires got fried in, so we're just going to flip all the switches. These points on the skin, they're actually more conductive to electricity than other parts of the body. You can actually find them scientifically with testing for electrical conductivity. I'm going to go through the points on my own body, and then we're going to do the same process that we just did, but now we're going to communicate it through to the body through this system called the meridian system. So I'm going to go through the points, and then I'm going to describe how we're going to be tapping together. I'm going to pause, we're going to have questions, and then we're going to do the process together. Does that sound good? Cool. Okay, so the points are, Mel, can you highlight me so that I can, I think right now Linda's highlighted for some reason. There we go, thank you. Okay, so we're going to make a question mark on our face. Starts here, and then it goes to here, and then it goes to here, and then it goes to here, and then here, and then here. And we're going to just tap all over the chest. Now we can even tap below on the rib cage, underneath the pecs or the breasts, and even under the arm. So the whole rib cage is really fair game, and you can tap with all 5 fingers all over the rib cage. There's points on the hand, but we're not going to do those today. We are going to tap on the face though. Okay, I know this kind of looks a little bit funny, but for those of you who felt a lot of opposition, or like as soon as you were stressed, you were stuck again, this will help it move. Because everything that we're talking about, it is physical. Your emotions are physical. There's physical representations of them. They are hormonal, they are electrical. So practice, by doing this practice, you're actually moving the physical components of the emotions through your system so that you are able to integrate and you are able to reprogram your responses. Okay, so we're gonna do, we're gonna be going back and forth between your existential comfort and your pain point. And the way that that's gonna look is you're gonna be saying a phrase. Even though I have this feeling, I accept myself. Or I accept what is. Or you can translate that how it is. However, you can translate it to be meaningful to you. And we're gonna do that while we tap. Any questions? Okay. So if you have any really specific feelings that are coming up for you around your stressors, you can type that into the chat box. Specific feelings like fear or anxiety or shame or anger. If you want to even get specific about what it is that you're scared of, I can weave that in, and we're going to speak together and do this process in unison. So I'll be kind of giving a call and you give a response, but edit the words so that they feel true to you. And you can also even write in a level of intensity. So let's say fear is a 8. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start on the chest. And take a deep breath in. And repeat after me. Even though I have this feeling, and let yourself feel that feeling, I accept myself. And now let yourself feel that acceptance. And breathe. Again, pull up that feeling on your screen. Even though I have this feeling, really let yourself feel it. I accept myself. Take a deep breath. And let yourself feel the comfort of your own compassion and attention. Even though I feel so overwhelmed, I've been overwhelmed for days. I accept myself. Deep breath. Even though I feel so overwhelmed. Think about what it is that you feel overwhelmed by. I completely and deeply accept myself. Even with this overwhelm. Take a deep breath. Let yourself drop all the way back into that existential comfort. Really find that safe spot again. Even if that safe spot is just the wisdom of your own system. Even though I feel overwhelmed with fear, and you can translate whatever word is the right word for you: fear, panic, anxiety, scared. Deep breath. I completely accept myself. Let yourself find that comfort again. Even with this anxiety. Deep breath. Even with all of this anxiety, you can think about what specifically you're anxious about. There's a lot of anxiety circulating right now. What is it specifically that's got you? What's your hook into the anxiety? What is it that you're carrying? And deep breath. I accept myself even with this anxiety. Deep breath. It's important to note that sometimes the feelings go up before they go down, and that's okay. It's okay to unpack this a little bit. Just keep tapping and breathing. It'll move. It'll move up and out. And the more specific you get, the better. Even though I have this anxiety and this fear, deep breath all the way down to your toes. I accept myself. You can also speak words of comfort to yourself like, I'm trusting, or I love myself, or I know that it's going to be okay. Any words that really occur to you is comforting. Deep breath. Even with this anxiety and panic, I forgive myself. Now do it. Actually forgive yourself for carrying that in your system. Deep breath. Get really specific about what it is that you're anxious about. Say it out loud. I'm anxious about, what is it? What is it that you're anxious about? I'm anxious about, you can say it out loud too if you want to unmute yourself or type it in the chat box. Deep breath. I completely forgive myself. And give yourself that forgiveness. So what we're doing again, just to remind you with all the silliness that it might look like, what we're doing is we're reprogramming our responses. And these phrases like I accept myself, I love myself, they trigger our parasympathetic nervous response. They trigger our self-comforting, our self-soothing. So we're teaching ourselves to be calm in the face of what once gave us anxiety. You know, your cat really wants in on that action. She's like, tap on me. Deep breath. And you can make some noise and you can shake it out, wiggle it out. If you want to move in any way while you're tapping, if you want to sigh, you can growl. Deep breath. Let's check in on your anxiety. How's your anxiety? Up, down? Show me in the chat box if you've gone, if you're getting some results, feeling a little bit better. Okay, deep breath. We're going to stay there for just another few minutes. Even though I still feel a little bit of anxiety. There's a lot to be anxious about. Even though there's a lot to be anxious about, I can think about a million things that I could still feel anxious about if I tried. And I still accept myself. Deep breath. I forgive myself for any remaining anxiety, even if it's a lot, if it's only a little. Deep breath. I forgive myself for feeling any remaining anxiety, no matter how much it is. Even though I still feel anxious about this one specific thing, that's okay. I'm letting myself also feel peace and relaxation. I'm letting myself feel at home in my body. Deep breath. I'm letting myself feel grateful. Okay. You can spend another few minutes. If you have any other words that you want to say to yourself, you can take your time and do that. Any questions about the process that we just went through? Does it make sense?
I'd love for everyone to write, in the beginning we asked you from a 0 to 10, your stress and anxiety. I'd love for you to now write in the comments where you are, just so we can see a little before and after picture. 10 being high stress and 1 being smooth rainbow ride in Joyland. All right, Allison moved to a 2, Anthony to a 3, Alyssa went from an 8.9 to a 5.6. That's awesome. Allison went down 4 points. That's huge. Lori's at a 3 or 4. This is great. This is real movement. Farah is now a 4. Love seeing things underneath a 5. And we only did this practice together, the full, all components combined, for like maybe 10 minutes or less just now. See how powerful it is. Elena's a 1. That's awesome. Karen's at a 3. That's beautiful. Emotional release. That's good. Get it out. Get it out. Yes.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, I so much appreciate you guys being here for this. Mindlight is going to be doing a lot of this kind of thing in the coming weeks. We have Tatiana is going to be leading a tapping circle for people ongoing for free once a week. We'll be, oh wow, Deb, that's an awesome, that's awesome. So awesome. So Deb started at a 10 and is now at a 1. So yes. Yeah, so Mindlight is going to be doing a lot of free resources like this in the coming weeks. So definitely get on that email list, and also
put the email list in the chat right now. So if you want to get alerted for other free trainings we have coming up for the next month and a half that we already have scheduled, just sign up there and we'll put you on that list so you get to know.
Yeah. So right now we're kind of doing what I call 911 tapping to meet the immediate right now present need. But if you're interested in going deeper and doing this kind of work for all the stuff that you have had going on in you even before our new world dynamic, we have a course, a self-healing course for integrating really anything that you're carrying with you. Tatiana is also going to be leading that. That's going to start in next month. So if you're interested in doing a proper training to learn how to work with yourself in this way, then hop on for that. We also have a practitioner training. So if you want to learn how to lead and facilitate these kinds of techniques, then we have trainings that both cover just the trauma side, but also the full emotional mastery. It's a 2-year certification program. So Allison had a question.
Yeah, so if anyone does want to send this to a friend, I did record this and we'll share it in Feel More Good. We'll share it on the Mindlight page. And if you've signed up for the email list, I can also send the recording to you via email. I also want to encourage you guys, for everything that Lily's saying, we have a website. It's themindlight.com. And you can dive deep into all the offerings there. And I want to add that we also offer one-on-one sessions with our graduates who are skilled in the techniques you just learned today. So if you need immediate one-on-one relief, you can actually book that through our website as well.
I'm also just adding in my personal email address. So if you are interested in studying to be a practitioner or in getting more in-depth training, you can email me directly and I'd be happy to hop on a call with you and talk to you about where you are and where you're wanting to be and support you in that way. So I'm happy to hang out for another few minutes if anybody has any questions or feels stuck on anything, and I'd love to talk to you, be with you.
I'm wondering if anyone's finding any benefits or positive changes related to the craziness going on.
Yes.
I am. I'm noticing the world around me. Everyone's bringing their gifts. Everyone's popping out with what they have special and unique to offer the world right now. And it's really beautiful to watch that happen.
Yeah, I'm really valuing the slowing down aspect. And I'm also, while it's challenging, I'm really loving having more time with my kids.
I think that it's absolutely amazing and jaw-dropping and so cool to be able to meet brand new people that are interested in doing this work and that are wanting to utilize our inward time to, to get centered from all that. But to just seeing new faces from people all over the country and all over the world.
Mm. Yeah.
A lot of my friends have been cleaning drawers a lot, and I brought 3 big bags, to give away. For me personally, I have a lot of issues with organizing physically to get out of the house. So the fact that I haven't had to do that, I think has led to a lot more serenity in the mornings.
Nice.
I've started a list of positive things that are happening. And high on that list is I think we're going to be able to make an effect on the climate change because we're stopping our dependence, or we're stopping our massive use of fossil fuel. All of us are confined to the home. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to realize that we don't need to use the fossil fuel the way we have been. Employers will go ahead and let us telecommute, the ones who have been denying it for no reason in the past. I think that we're going to start making things here in America again. Just the fact that we can't get the items that we need for the tests, you know, shows how desperate we are for manufacturing, and our big auto industry has decided to start making things for us, you know, the immediate need. And having those tankers, you know, go across the ocean, that's a lot of fossil fuel. So there's so many things, like people are spending time with their family now, mothers are home doing at-home work, the children aren't in the preschool any longer. Not everybody can do that, but the ones who can, I think children who were in schools that were subpar or they were being bullied, they're going to be homeschooled now in a much more loving environment. Parents who thought they couldn't do it are going to realize they can. I have such a long list, and I don't want to take up your time, but I would encourage all of you to start a list like that.
I like that. I would add to the list the home gardens. I know,
Yes.
myself included, that there's a big influx of people starting to plant their own gardens.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would love to honor everyone's time. Looks like we're just at 8:30, which is when we promised we would end. And Hati has been amazing in the background. It looks like you did some calculations, love. And collectively, she's saying we moved from an average of 6 on stress down to a 2. That's the average of the data that came in. Can we get a round of applause for ourselves? That's Resiliency Live.
Nice work, guys.
Thank you so much for your mastery and your sharing today.
Right. Thank you all. It was wonderful to be with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll
Take
have
care,
more.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
You're
Looking forward to joining in on more things with you guys.
Awesome. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.